Love Live is one of the most popular and most successful anime franchises of all time. Don't believe me? It is one of the most profitable, mostly due to merchandise, anime series of all time. But these numbers are greatly helped by not having one group, not having two, not three, not four, but five, plus a musical. But there has been one question that has puzzled Love Live fans for a long time, and that is there a canon timeline? So officially, there is not a Love Live timeline. They have not officially released one. We probably will never get one, but in terms of like an official one that has been released, it does not exist. And this is kind of shown by the fact that canonically, none of the members have met between groups. Like, none of the girls from School Idol Project have ever met any of the ones from Sunshine. None of the Nijigasaki girls have met any of the Superstar girls. And you might argue, well, in this game though, the mobile game that got shut down, they're all talking there. For this video's sake, we're going to assume that game is non-canon. We're going to assume that is just a fun game for you to spend money on, and it does not matter in this case. Now, that's not to say that the girls have not been referenced in other series that they don't star in. We get a lot of that in Sunshine, which we'll get to. But before I get into any of that, real quick, obviously, spoilers ahead for everything in Love Live, pretty much. All the way from School Idol Project to Superstar, I'm going to tell you pretty much everything. So if you don't want to be spoiled, click away now. So a lot of people want to just make the assumption that every group should start, canonically, when their group was formed, or when it was officially announced. And for the sake of Muse, that is 2010. So, for the simplicity's sake, what we're going to say is that if the group was founded in 2010, then they will start that school year in the fall of 2010, or summer of 2010, when the school year would start. So they will start the school year in 2010, in that school year in 2011. This means that Arise would win the very first Love Live in the fall of 2010, and Muse would win the second Love Live in the spring of 2011. Which would also mean that in the third Love Live, which would be in the fall of 2011, that Muse would officially sing for the final time as a group, and then they would disband. We are unsure who won the third Love Live, by the way. We have no idea. Maybe that's something that eventually they'll say. I doubt it. This is something that they do not care about. Now we move on to Sunshine. And Sunshine is where everything kind of gets a little bit messy. So Sunshine is the only series to actually mention another group by name. This doesn't happen again, and it happens quite a bit in Season 1 of Sunshine. In fact, we have a pretty obvious clue as to how long it's been since the events of School Idol Project. So Hanamaru has a magazine that is celebrating the 5th anniversary of Muse's Love Live victory. Now, we concluded that Muse's Love Live victory is in 2011. So, let's go ahead and assume, for simplicity's sake, that it took Hanamaru a couple months to get this magazine from the major retailers. It finally made its way to a kind of rural town, and she got it, but it's now fall. The new school year has started to go on, and she has got it now, and it is 2016. This messes up something, because I mentioned a while ago that we were going to go by when the group was announced, which works except for this one. Because Sunshine was officially announced in 2015. But if we put Sunshine starting in 2015, that means only 4 years would pass. Why would they put out a magazine celebrating Muse's victory of 5 years when it's only been 4 years? Now, it would have been 5 years by the time that Aqua's won, but that's not until the spring, which is not when we see the magazine. If anything, we should have seen a magazine celebrating Arise's 5th year anniversary, but we don't. So we do have to break that rule for this anime specifically. So we're going to put it in 2016, but there's also a few details we have to remember with this series now as well. So Aqua's is not actually formed by Chika. It is formed by Kana, Mari, and Dia 2 years prior. So that means in 2014, they started Aqua's, it failed, they disbanded. This means that Chika refounds it and makes it start up again in 2016. They win the Love Live competition in 2017 in the spring. But this is where it gets messy again, because unlike Muse, Aqua's does not stop whenever the third years graduate. Yes, Kana, Mari, and Dia do graduate. They move on, and we end up with a 6-person group, but it continues on. So in the fall of 2017, we continue on with this 6-person group. Now, we're going to talk about something later, but I'm going to bring it up now. We know from events in Superstar that there has never been a 2-time back-to-back Love Live champion yet. That means that Chica's group of 6 people does not win the next Love Live. And I doubt they win the next one, so they are not a 2-time champion. Now I'll explain why in a second, because it's messy, but I think I know why. And if you thought that was the end of the messy stuff, no. It gets worse. So Nijigasaki is an interesting case because it kind of breaks everything if we really think about it. So the group actually came out in waves. And by that I mean that they actually started out in a video game or a mobile game in School Idol Festival. And that game started back in 2013 and had background characters, or like no-name characters, really. And 3 of them were Nijigasaki girls. They weren't at the time, but they would eventually become Nijigasaki girls. Now, eventually they would be added to the game fully in 2017. So, to clear everything up, yes, they did exist beforehand. And maybe you could make an argument they should be earlier in the timeline, but for just making it easy, making it to where they are not before Sunshine, and they really work with the timeline, if I put it right here, they will start in 2017. However, this means that Aqua's is performing as a 6-person group the same time that Nijigasaki is going on. Now, this does not hurt the timeline. This actually works perfectly fine because Nijigasaki never actually competes in Love Live, the main competition. But there is one small thing that messes up the timeline, and we don't really know when this happens. At some point between Sunshine and Superstar, Love Live goes from 2 competitions a year to 1. This is an interesting case, and I think I know when this happened. Now, we don't have any concrete information on this yet because none of the Nijigasaki movies are out yet, and I think this may clear up as we get into that. But we know there is a new competition starting and will be addressed in these movies. Is this a solo competition? We don't know. Like I said, this is a blurry part that will probably be cleared up in the future. But I am led to believe that in 2017, the Love Live competition went from 2 events to 1 event, and that second event was turned into a solo event, or whatever this is that we're going to be talking about in Nijigasaki. That will turn into whatever the second event was, or actually the first event, but it's messy. Because theoretically, the Love Live main one should have been in the fall, but now it's being like right up against graduation, which is after the second Love Live. It's a mess. It's a mess. But bear with me. This also creates a pretty big plot hole because in Superstar, we not only have group performances in the main Love Live, but we also have solo performances. And if this other competition is a solo competition, why did Margarete compete in the main group competition and not in the solo competition? That doesn't make any sense. But like I said, it is not official. We are trying to make a timeline where there is no timeline. But this also means that Chika and the third years from Nijigasaki are the same age, which is interesting to think about. And that our main character, Ayumu, and Yu are the same age as Ruby and Hanamaru and Yohane from Sunshine. That messes with my brain. And another thing that is interesting to talk about before we completely ignore Sunshine now, while Chika definitely did not win a second Love Live, Ruby and Hanamaru and Yohane could have. They could technically be the first group to ever win, or first people to ever win 2 Love Lives, because it is specified in Superstar that while no one has ever won back-to-back, they don't outright say no one has ever won 2. So could this mean that Ruby and Yohane and Hanamaru and whoever is a part of that next generation of Aquas won another Love Live? Maybe. We don't know. But it is not confirmed that it did not happen. There's nothing that proves it didn't. But anyway, let's move on to Superstar because there's a little bit to talk about here. So Superstar is the first series that takes place over multiple years. And we can go back to what our original plan was. In whatever year it was announced, we can make them start in that year, which is 2020. This means that Superstar starts in 2020. They lose the Love Live in 2021 spring, and then they expand to a 9-person group in the fall of 2021. Then they win the Love Live in the spring of 2022. And then they expand to 11 members in the fall of 2022, which we have not seen yet. That is season 3. This also means, as another interesting tidbit, that Nijigasaki takes place 3 years before Superstar, which means that all of the members of Nijigasaki are graduated by the time we get to Superstar. That means that she is actually older than Kanan and the other oldest members of Liella, except for Mia. Mia is the same age as the oldest members of Superstar. So even though they are now 3rd years, they are the same age as Mia is in Nijigasaki, because she's a year younger than everybody else, and just because she's smart is the only reason she's such a high year. So real quick, let's recap where we're at. So in the fall of 2010, Muse is founded. Arise wins the Love Live competition. They win the very first Love Live. This is followed by Muse winning the second Love Live in the spring of 2011, followed by that fall in the fall of 2011 when they perform for the final time and disband. Aqua is founded in 2014 by Kana, Mari, and Dia, and then they are immediately disbanded because it just didn't work. Chika reforms the group in 2016, and then they lose the first event in the fall of 2016, but win the event in the spring of 2017. They become a 6-person group and begin performing in the fall of 2017 alongside Nijigasaki, starting up their group again in 2017 fall as well. Liella is formed in 2020 and then lose the Love Live competition to Sunny Passion in early 2021. They expand to 9 members in 2021 before winning the competition in early 2022. They then expand to 11 members in the fall of 2022, and we don't know the events that would happen in early 2023. Now, if you've been counting, that's 4 groups. We've actually not talked about the 5th group because they technically don't have an anime yet, and I'm only counting the anime on this one. But real quick, let's talk about Link Like Love Live. They were officially unveiled in 2023, which means if they do get an anime, it would be taking place in 2023. This works out pretty well, mostly because this means they would start right after Superstar ends. The reason I say mostly is because if we are to assume that they will compete in a Love Live, that means that theoretically they could go up against Kineko and the other Liella members that are still left if they did make it far enough, which means either if they're not there, we have to assume they lost earlier or they disbanded. Neither one of them I'm real comfortable saying, so hopefully that will be addressed, but I doubt it will be. But to be honest, I don't think that there is an official timeline. I think this is just a series about cute girls singing and wanting us to buy CDs and $300 plushies that we have to find room for.